and I spoke for the sake of this podcast. I spoke to multiple women who have watched this movie. The first thing that comes to their mind is that, okay, Kabir Singh or this guy in Animal, they are absolutely not what we want out of our partners. Hello and welcome to our very second episode of our weekly podcast, Tbsp Kalesh. And today we are going to discuss an over-discussed topic, which is how a movie called Animal has divided the world into two. One which is very worried and stressed about the fact that he's not alpha enough because he's smoking indie mint. And the other part which is complaining कि उनकी मुच्छें बहुत ज्यादा आ गई because इस मूवी के टेस्टोस्टेरोन लेवल्स इतने हाई थे. So, Aishwarya, I want to ask you, how are you feeling this week, firstly?
I'm personally very happy that I actually went and saw Sam Bahadur before I tortured myself with Animal. So that has taken my, guilt a little down. But what about you? Like, what was your takeaway from this movie or whatever it is, Animal?
Well, my first takeaway was that I need a cold shower after all the gund that movie had fell out all over me. It was quite disgusting from the very beginning, the way they treated women. Actually, the way not just the characters, but the director and the writer also treated women was very putting off for me. You could have replaced any of the characters with a piece of furniture. And it would not have affected the plot of the movie. And I personally, that is not my genre. And a cherry
Yeah.
on the cake was the fact that they were constantly glorifying the kind of behavior that all the men in the movie were projecting towards the women. So yeah, that's just not my scene, I guess. But at the same time, it also makes me concerned because the director has said the kind of things that he has said. He had said things like, if in a relationship, if you cannot hold, touch, or beat your wife the way you want, and vice versa, is that even a relationship? And I would say, I would have really polarizing opinions about it, and I will come to that, but I want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, see, and this is not any normal director. He's a very celebrated director down here in South and now in Bollywood, right? So it's like, it's kind of also you need to understand that there's a responsibility on your shoulder on about what you're making. Like if you're so popular, if there are so many people, expecting good kind of work. And we all know the kind of things that he said when Kabir Singh was launched. The same kind of criticism, maybe we were not very aware when it happened or whether it happened for Arjun Reddy, which was the Telugu film on which Kabir Singh was actually based off. But when Kabir Singh came out, although it did great numbers, but it was a conversation starter that how convenient was it for the hero to go ahead and slap. And in that like defending those actions, the director was like, if you're not able to do this, then I don't know, are you even expressing love or something on those lines was what he's saying. So I think there was a strong backlash that he had faced, and in order to make things right from his end in this movie, he allows the female character to first slap Ranveer. So, I mean, that was not what we were asking for, Mr. Wanga, but thanks for nothing, I guess. Like, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a good defense. That's all I would say. But I don't think he's trying to defend because he is very convinced that physical abuse or any kind of control, physical or emotional, over women in a heterosexual relationship is absolutely fine. And it comes from that school of thought.
And in addition to what you're saying, Samriddhi, also glorifying cheating. I mean, whatever you're trying to do for saving your father, I'm sure your father never wanted you to sleep with some women, for weeks, so that you could protect them. And then people around you are calling her bhabhi 2, like we all can see on Instagram nowadays. Now, the problem is not only have you glorified cheating in the movie. If I open up my social media, there are like 100 of posts around Tripti, like she's now the new national crush of India or something, and everyone is mentioning her as bhabhi 2. So no one like called it out in the movie that you've cheated, it's wrong, and they were supposed to be like, the right brothers, or matlab, they're very close to their values or anything, but no one had any problem. And now the entire nation is following and calling her bhabhi 2 and just having their own fun. So I think that is something that shows how influential a movie can be. Like, you can do anything which is morally wrong and glorify it, and people will follow blindly.
Yes.
What do you think about it?
Either they think that the movie gives them the license to behave like that, or they think that उन्हीं पे ये movie बनाई गई है ना? So the
Yeah.
second time they do it, they do it with even more pride and everything. But I
Yeah.
want to tell these kind of people that when women are watching, and I spoke for the sake of this podcast, I spoke to multiple women who have watched this movie. The first thing that comes to their mind is that, okay, Kabir Singh or this guy in Animal, they are absolutely not what we want out of our partners. And Behen,
Yeah.
if you do think that if you do find it sexy, please find a therapist.
Yeah. Who do we want? We want, I think, Aman from Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, not even Rahul. Like, we can settle for a guy like Rahul, but we are actually looking for ones
Yes,
like, in a...
yes,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I want to ask you on that point, who do you think is the actual audience for this movie or movies like this? Because you and I will watch it, we'll not be influenced by it, and nor will be like our life partners, or people we are surrounded with. So who do you think is the audience for it? Because the movie is doing exceptionally well on the box of it, like, I think it's 500 plus cr already, or somewhere in the range of 700 or something.
Yeah.
But who is watching it, who is giving it all the praise? Where do you think that is coming from?
देखा आपने लापरवाही का नतीजा है.
While we cannot relate to the movie, but there is a huge section of the society which was clapping at the scenes where he was behaving abusively with his partner in the movie, right? And I want to highlight this difference because a lot of people have come at me and said what happens when movies like Anurag Kashyap's movies, when they show violence, when they show a lot of negative things, why don't you come at them like that with your with your feminist gaze? My point is, if Anurag Kashyap is showing a murder scene, and even if he's playing a rock star music in the background, you can feel the disgust towards that scene because the rest of the plot of the movie has been, the filmography has been done that way to show that balance. That disgust is disgust. Negative parts of the society are rotten, and you need to identify them. It's, in a way, it's a call out. But what you do throughout the movie is just go on and on about this adrenaline and testosterone pumped alpha male, his family, his father, his brothers, they're all pumped on testosterone and they're all thinking from you know where, and they're making decisions accordingly. That's, and you're just glorifying that constantly. There is no balance that comes out in the movie. And another very important thing that I want to highlight here is that when movies like Dev D released, there was no man saying that I want to be Dev like Dev D, like in Dev D.
Yeah.
But today, Kabir Singh OP is a thing. And
Yeah.
that's all that I will say. There is a mass which is making this thing trending, which finds it very sexy, both men and women and everything in between. There is a mass appeal to this, and that's why movies like these things, like movies like these get made. That's why movies like these do so well in the market.
खत्म. Bye bye. Tata.
I think I completely agree with what you said there, Samriddhi. And, what is surprising me more is that there's a senior actor like Manoj Bajpayee who's coming and saying that there should be creative freedom. Like, movies like this should be considered as like fantasy movies, like we can say Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, or some, series like that. And the director should have the freedom to create these stories, and it is upon us whether we want to watch it or not. I mean, agree to the part that it looks like a fantasy movie because you can do any shit and there was no law and order. There was not even a single scene where the police was there, or there could have been consequences of the action for that matter. But what is more concerning for me is that why I am not able to relate to such kind of cinema is that you have the entire movie about saving your father, or the bond about like between the son and the father, and there's no story background there. Like, we have no connection. You see in the entire movie they don't even hug once. It's okay, like, if you're trying to prove a point that men don't hug or men don't express their emotions by doing these things. They take a gun, they take a machine.
I love you, Papa.
Like,
I love you, Papa.
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, so that is not fantasy. But I'm very sorry, like, what we're trying to project tomorrow, a small child or someone who, if he tries to do the same thing, imagine carrying a gun to the school or college. This is a reality in America. But
Yes.
if you're glorifying such things, it will be there in the near future, right? That you can have news like people or children, carrying arms to the school and, threatening people. So we just need to be very mindful about the kind of content that we are consuming and then glorifying in this manner.
क्या गुंडा बनेगा रे तू?
And the movie Joker, that was it is known to be one of the most influential movie when it comes to all the arms and the gunnings happening at schools and everything. These characters
Yeah.
were glorified to that extent. There was no balance brought in the movies. ये लो तुम्हारा freedom of expression हो गया फिर. But at the same time, as a movie maker, you should be aware of the fact that there's only a section of the society which can afford to be mindful about what they're consuming.
Yeah.
Not everybody, and that does not have anything to do with how prosperous you are, how much money you have in the bank account. Content has been known to sway votes, sway elections, dominate thought processes in so many ways. And that it's beyond me if people still think that, just call it a fantasy movie. Then why are people clapping when somebody is abusing their wife? That is not done. That doesn't remain fantasy anymore. That becomes a problem in somebody's house.
चीटिंग करता है तू चीटिंग करता है तू
Ranbir said that if you're triggered, don't watch this movie. Then
correct. So I wanted to what is it about easily triggered? What do you mean if you're easily triggered? Today there is this culture of calling people or tagging them as hypersensitive. Today we are more aware. And I want to talk about it. It's so important because I've heard this so many times in families, in gatherings, in social spaces. आजकल तो कुछ बोल ही नहीं सकते, बाप रे, कोई भी ऑफेंस ले लेता है. अरे आप पहले सोच के नहीं बोलते थे, आज आपको सोच के बोलने के लिए बोला जा रहा है, सामने वाले की फीलिंग्स को सेंसिटिवली लेने के लिए बोला जा रहा है, तो ये आपको बहुत ज्यादा काम लग रहा है. I'm just calling out on your alas, nothing else. You can't keep offending people. You can't have a problematic behavior and expect people to have their chin up and be like, that's okay, keep doing it. That's a bully behavior. Do I want to pay $1,000, go to a movie theater at the end of a hard-working day and watch men bashing each other up and the women around them not respecting? Just 2 tablespoon Kalesh काफी है, I feel. उससे ज़्यादा थोड़ा ज़्यादा हो जाता है. And Animal was definitely beyond 2 tablespoon Kalesh. It was just Kalesh on Kalesh back to back.
One more thing, I think that movie, whatever the point of that was, itna violence tha. After a point, I was like, I'm not feeling any emotion. Like,
you get desensitized.
Hannah, yeah. So I was like, okay, like, matlab, one time I'll react, two times I'll react. But I was like, okay, fine. So that I don't want to leave with the hall with that kind of feeling that I'm okay with, people getting murdered and not getting affected. Like I like some emotions, whatever little is left in me, I want it to be there. So I think, yeah, that was the movie. But like my biggest takeaway from this entire shit show was that you can't सेल एनीथिंग एंड एवरीथिंग. कौन सी दुनिया में आपके पापा के साइड के बुआ के चाचा के बच्चे आके आपके लिए जान देने के लिए रेडी हो जाते हैं. आई एम लाइक ठीक है, बाकी सब तो वी कैन टॉलरेट, ये नहीं हो पाएगा. सो ये सब मत फैलाओ मार्केट में बाहर.
That's absolutely true. किसके cousins आते हैं? That's true. और इतने बड़े बड़े होने के बाद.
Yeah, and then happily getting murdered and all for you. भाई नहीं, हमारे घर में अपने कलेश में हो जाता है, that is enough. इतना unreal नहीं करना था
हमारे में
को.
संगीत पे आके नाच देते हैं.
Yes.
वो.
So yeah, I think that was animal for us.
Yeah,
But
I'll also give my takeaway.
yeah. Sorry.
दिल से लगता है भाई, आप समझ ही सकते होंगे. मैंने आज तक किसी के में गलत कमेंट नहीं किया भाई, प्लीज.
My takeaway would be that these movies get made for the people who want to watch it. It's just reflection of what the society is. The numbers tell you that. The hootings tell you that. The cheers tell you that. So that is just the kind of society we're living in. Vanga is not just the director. Vanga is our padosi who said, "Bhai, ek baar to dekhne layak hai ye movie." है ना? So unless and until we change that, nothing is going to happen. But हम यहाँ पे कोई change agents है नहीं. हम यहाँ पे कलेश करने आए हैं. So
I am sorry, Babu.
How do we end it? Oh, हाँ, last का. नहीं, रुको उससे पहले. And Samriddhi, just before we end this, I also want to tell you today in the morning what a lovely thing I read on Instagram, where Bobby Dale, like the celebrated villain of this movie, has come out and said that, I have allowed my wife to work. So, I mean, that is what I want to leave you with. So now we can just add that dance वहाँ पे.